call the September 5th, 2019 Lakeland Shores City Council meeting to order. Kim, would you mind taking roll call, please?
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Bischoff.
Here.
Councilmember Kopesky.
Present.
Mayor Zeller.
Here. If you'd all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adopting the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the consent agenda. We have approving the monthly claims and tort liability. City does not waive monetary limits. Kim, do you mind just briefly speaking to the second? I think that always makes people nervous, even though we do it every year.
Mayor and council members, if a member does not waive the statutory limits, an individual claimant could recover no more than $500,000 on any claim to which the statutory tort, the insurance limits apply. If the member does waive the statutory limits and does not purchase additional insurance, a single claimant could recover up to $2 million for a single occurrence.
Okay. And that's recommended that we do not waive.
Absolutely recommended that you do not waive.
Okay. And then any comments or questions about monthly claims? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I will second it.
Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries. Item number 3, public comments. MDH and MPCA sampling event update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name's Ginny Yangling. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Health. I'm a hydrogeologist in the Environmental Health Division. And we've got folks from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency here, too, who will be speaking as well as needed. I put together a quick packet for you because we were told to keep this brief. And so just wanted to give you an update on the work that we've been doing. As you probably recall, the Pollution Control Agency and the Health Department have been collaborating on an investigation of perfluoroalkyl substances in the groundwater in Washington County, or PFAS. That refers to a very large class of chemicals. As we're sampling, we've identified 7 that are present in the groundwater at the disposal areas where these wastes were disposed of back in the 50s through the early 70s. The contamination got into the groundwater, and we brought along a somewhat outdated map, but this just gives you a little context. There were 3 disposal areas, one in Lake Elmo, one in Oakdale, and one down in Woodbury on the border with Cottage Grove. And most of the contamination is actually flowing to the south towards the Mississippi River. 2 of the contaminants that we test for, PFOA and PFOS, are what are driving the health concerns and the drinking water advisories that have been issued in Washington County. And the areas where PFOA is present are shown in green. The areas where PFOS is present are shown in black hash marking. Now, this is a little outdated, so it doesn't show the full extent going out into this area. But the reason I brought this map along was to help kind of put into context why we're even having to look in Lakeland Shores for the contamination. And the reason is, although the groundwater is moving to the south towards the Mississippi River, There was a stormwater interconnect project that was completed in the early 90s to try and control flooding on some lakes up in the Lake Elmo and West Lakeland Township area. Interconnecting all of that surface water inadvertently helped to transport the contamination from the Oakdale and the Lake Elmo sites through a series of lakes, ponds, ditches, pipelines, what have you, out to the St. Croix River. And along the course of that path, the surface water or the stormwater re-infiltrates to the groundwater. And so this area of contamination in West Lakeland Township is the result of that unintended consequence of interconnecting the stormwater. Some of that contamination gets into a buried bedrock valley that trends south under I-94 and then east out to the St. Croix River. And that's why ultimately we found ourselves out here tracing a very dilute plume of PFOA and PFOS into the areas of Lakeland and Lakeland Shores. And so we wanted to give you an update on the status of the sampling work that we've been doing. We mailed permission request letters to all of the properties that were identified as not having city water connections, which we assumed meant that they were using a private well for their drinking water source. 13 of those wells have been sampled. There was a total of 18 that we were made aware of. 13 of those have been sampled. We're waiting for results on 4 of them. 9 of them we have the results for. Of those 9, 4 have been issued drinking water advisories. 4 of them have PFBA and PFOA at concentrations below what we would issue an advisory for, so below the state's drinking water guidance values. And 1 well had only PFBA at what is essentially background concentrations. So based on that, we issued drinking water advisories to 4 of the homeowners. As I mentioned, we're waiting on some results for 4 more. And we sent a second letter to the homeowners who never responded to our first letter to see if we could get permission to sample their water. We can't sample on a property unless we have the homeowner's permission. So for those wells where we did not issue an advisory, we'll continue to do routine monitoring to make sure that the concentrations don't go up over time. If you look at the map on the second page of this handout, you'll see the green triangles indicate where the well advisories were issued, and then the dark blue little dots are the other wells that have been sampled but did not exceed our drinking water advisories. 3 of the wells that were issued advisories, they exceeded just because of PFAS concentrations. 1 of them exceeded because they had both PFAS and some VOCs, volatile organic compounds. Those are the ones you guys are used to from the past, the TCE and the DCE and that. We look at all the chemicals that are in somebody's water and do an additivity calculation. So although they didn't exceed our guidance values for any single chemical because of the combined concentrations, they were issued an advisory. So that's kind of the status for the actual sampling. And Tim, did you want to talk about the PCA's response to the advisories?
Could I just ask quick, the surface water transfer that's happening inadvertently, is that connection been broken temporarily so that that's not continuing to happen?
No, because they can't really shut off that connection because it's maintaining water levels on a bunch of lakes up in the Lake
This is the
Elmo
one that
area.
starts at Lake Elmo?
Yeah, it actually starts all the way up at Lake Jane, Lake Olson, and Lake
Oh,
de
okay.
Montreville,
But then
and
it runs through the
interconnects
old
down
Tartan
through
Park and-
Oak Park,
Yeah.
Eagle Point Lake and Lake Elmo, and then out into West Lakeland.
Who installed that network?
That was the watershed district. It was long before we'd even had the ability to test for these chemicals, let alone know that they were out there. So part of the settlement with the 3M Corporation involved funding specifically to focus on that stormwater system and try to find a way to address the contamination that's moving from the sites and into that system and creating an ongoing problem.
For those places that were given advisories, is there public money to rectify the situation?
There is, and I'll let Tim speak to that.
Is this the result of the 3M, or is this also raised truck stop?
3M.
So the PFAS is 3M.
Okay.
The VOCs are from, some of them, I think mostly further north in Lakeland, is from Ray's Truck Stop. There's some chlorinated solvents like trichloroethylene and tetrachloroethylene that have been detected in this area. There's two plumes of chlorinated solvents, and I don't believe the actual source of those has been positively identified.
And I'm sorry, we're not going to, both city wells have passed.
Yes. So both of the Lakeland City wells are completed in a very deep aquifer. We do find trace levels of one chemical, PFBA, perfluorobutanoic acid. I believe the last samples, it was around 10 to 11 parts per trillion, and the drinking water number is 7,000 parts per trillion. So they're well below our guidance values for that.
Just want to make sure we get them.
Excuse me. How often do you test like the city water?
That they haven't been tested for perfluorinated compounds very frequently because they're so deep, and two, because we didn't find much on the first round. So
And that, when did you do the first test?
I believe that was in 2014.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Lockram, and I work for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. I'm a project manager there. And so once the Minnesota Department of Health issues a well advisory, then they kind of turn it over to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And so what we did with the 4 houses in Lakeland Shores that had well advisories issued, we sent them a letter stating that you shouldn't drink your water. What we recommend is that you connect to city water, because my understanding is that you have the infrastructure running down the streets here for people to connect right outside of their house, basically. And we said that the MPCA, through the Harmful Substance Compensation Fund, can reimburse residents for the cost of connecting to city water up to $25,000 per address. And then we said, in the meantime, before we can provide you bottled water to drink until you get connected to city water. So 2 of those letters went out in January, and 2 more went out in July. And so I assume, I haven't heard back, but I assume they're working with the city to get connected to city water.
I took advantage of that program 9 years ago, first go around a while back, and the reimbursement was really slick. It was handled really well, and I have recommended to everybody who asked me about it that it works as advertised. And the nice part is that I think I had the money in 45 days back, and that is a big deal when somebody has to borrow some money to take care of it. So
That's good to hear. Yeah, when it's a large amount and somebody has to borrow, we try and get their application amount approved ahead of time, so when they actually send in the receipts,
Right.
then it's a quicker process. So.
Because I think we do have one resident that
we do it on our
yeah.
street, yeah.
that could come into play.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
good. Yeah, they can definitely call me if they have any questions on it, and all that information was in the letter that we sent out to them.
okay.
Great.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'll just mention the last page of this handout shows a map of the PFOS distribution. So it gives you a little idea of how things are moving into this area. You can see you're pretty much at that sort of sketchy end of the plume, and things are kind of just fingering out as they head towards the river. We will get a PFOA map, but I had a little too much fun this weekend, and life intervened in my schedule. So we'll try to get that to you by next week.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. We will move on to item B, Richard Throne. Do you need to get going?
Yeah, I have to call.
Okay, Richard, we're gonna, just real quick, we're gonna get a fire EMS update.
Yeah, so nothing to report on the fire EMS, but just representing the Relief Association, giving you the annual audit and projections.
Okay.
We estimated funding last year at, for those that don't, Kevin Johnson, Afton resident, 35-year firefighter, and treasurer of our Relief Association. But we projected a funding balance ending at 118. We ended at 117, so right on track. Not no benefit increase this year, so there's no business, no city business required. Just wanted to turn in the audit. A couple of items of note. Two things. Last year we did move auditors to Michael Polfall to try and save some money. It's much less expensive than the big CPA firm. And then secondly, the other thing that happened this year is the fire department, with the hiring of our municipal chief, used to have a general membership fund. That has been transferred to the Relief Association so that it can be audited. So that is also now part of our audit annually. So that is under the direction, and so that falls under the board of directors as well.
Okay.
So that's where our fundraiser, that's where our pancake breakfast money goes, and that's when we buy tables and chairs and donate stuff back to the cities and whatnot with that fund. So that's our fundraising fund. But it is now audited. So
Awesome.
that's all I had.
Thank you.
So that's for your records.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Now, Richard, we're ready for you. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a little handout here I'd like to give to the council members, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Richard Throne. I'm chair of the Veterans Memorial Advisory Committee here of the 5 cities. And I've included some materials in your packet so you get a little bit understanding of who we are. And there's a brochure of our park that will be updated very soon now. And it gives you a basis of where we started and where we're headed. And there's also a list of names that was in the July Lake St. Clair Beach newsletter of the present veterans that are on display at the memorial. A little history about our Lower St. Croix Valley Veterans Memorial Park. The official title is that St. Croix Beach Mayor Tom McCarthy went before the 5 Valley City Councils back in 2012, 2013, and asked that they pass a resolution to support the Lower St. Croix Valley Veterans Memorial. You did, and I thank you. The resolution is included in your packet of material. In the spring of 2018, there was a regrouping of the Veterans Memorial Advisory Committee, and I was asked to chair that committee. And it was formed with 5 veterans from the 5 branches of the service from the 5 communities. So it's a joint effort shared by one and all. We went to work, and we started meeting twice a month. And we started putting together our reconstruction goals for the park. And anyone that had seen it early on saw what it was. And we come to the point where it was time to dismantle it and start over because it was a hit and miss and it wasn't done in a good standards and things were, the stanchions and everything were leaning and there wasn't enough support and da-da-da. You know how the story goes. So we started from scratch and we completed phase 1 by November last year. And upon completion of that, we had a ceremony the Saturday before Veterans Day, and we unveiled and rededicated the park. And we unveiled the statue that is presently there. There was a turnout on that cold afternoon, which surprised us, of 160 people. 10 minutes before, there was 7 of us standing on the street. So we were quite surprised and honored. Currently, since this spring, we've been working on phase 2 of the park. It includes an extension of the cement walkway, which if anybody's been up there, you've seen that we've completed that extension. We've also installed a new bench. The old bench we moved down to the park down here in the beach area because they had some matching benches and they didn't want to put an unmatched bench in there, so we worked it out with them. We also are going to start a privacy fence, a white 6-foot-high fence starting Saturday behind the stanchions. And then we will do the final landscaping so we can have another presentation on the 9th of November of this year. We already have a couple of guest speakers. Last year, Mayor McCarthy spoke along with Lakeland Mayor Richard Glasgow. And we'd like to have your mayor come before us this year for a few words of wisdom for a few minutes, if you so desire.
Boy, I'd have to dig really deep for words of wisdom from me, but I'd be happy to attend.
Please consider.
All right.
We would appreciate that you attend. The Lower St. Croix Valley Veterans Memorial is very happy to have received our 501c3 status just recently. What's unique about that is it allows us, under that category, the same as the Community Thread, the Youth Service Bureau, and Stillwater Historical Society. And they're all charitable organizations that cities have given to in the past. The Veterans Memorial is completely self-funded and donation-driven. The only monies that is spent is the monies that we get. And in order to keep making improvements to the park, we're depending upon donations. I'm happy to say that we have stepped into phase 3 already in ordering a drinking fountain for the park because of some recent donations we got from Lakeland and American Legion. So that's great to be able to already step into phase 3 when we're hoping to get phase 2 done this year. I'm here to thank you for your initial support in 2012, 2013 with that resolution, but I'm also here to ask you for financial support. Please consider making a donation to your Veterans Memorial Park. I invite you all to stop by and see what has been done up there in the last little over a year. And I also want to recognize Council Member Tim Schroeder for all his help that he's helped us with his expertise in carpentry. And please stop by and check it out. It's right here at 1919 Quebec Avenue. Are there any questions?
When is it again in November?
Pardon me?
When is the
Oh,
ceremony in November?
9th of November on a Saturday afternoon. There'll be some publishing of this, and we have Commissioner Carrizo going to come and speak before us, as well as we're inviting the other 3 mayors. Afton, I was at St. Mary's Point the other night, and I was here at a planning meeting last night. Now I'm here again. But we're going to invite the other 3 mayors to come and be present or say a few words. And we'd like to involve them all because it's our park. We've done this for all of the past and present veterans, whether they live here now or they lived here before. And there's a shadow box up at the park right now that recognizes the 5 people in the community that we are aware of that are presently serving in the military. And once they've completed their service activities, then they will be included in the brick on the stanchions. We just got the 4 stanchions in that were manufactured over here in Hudson, and they'll be painted Saturday. And we've got another order for 25 more bricks that have been applied for. And once that's completed, Terry Hurdy and his crew we will go up there and we'll mount that stanchion as well. So it's been a real fun project, and I think that a lot of people are quite surprised as to what we've done up there. A little phase 3 update is next year. We want to combine the parking lot and the park together. I applied for a blockage of the Quebec Avenue at the park. We've talked to the fire chief. We've talked to the legal, and under Chapter 160, as long as we don't vacate the street, we can block it as long as we don't hinder anyone from entering their properties. We talked to the 2 persons involved along that street, and they welcomed that to stop the speeders from flying down that road. And so we're looking for that, and eventually the berm that we will put in will be a low-profile berm with flowers in it. I got a gal that's just waiting to get down there and put a bunch of flowers in. And we will put a meandering trail through the berm. There won't be an opening through the center where bicycles, four-wheelers, motorbikes that have been riding on our berm already can plow through there and disrupt the traffic from the handicapped or the visitors to the park. And we're also going to cut some of the asphalt out to square it off a little bit to have a better unloading site for handicap vans to go directly to the walkway. And we're going to we recently found a map with the size of the lots and everything, and a crew helped me identify where all the 4 markers were for the park. Now we're going to identify the markers for the parking lot and then the private land between there and the bike trail. We want to put a connection between the bike trail and the park, because where we take out that portion of asphalt on the north end there, we're going to put another picnic table in there. So we'll have 2 picnic tables, the bench on the other end, and then the water fountain. There will be no bathrooms. That's too much involved with EDA to put a bathroom in there, and there's not room on the park to put it.
Okay. Great. Great project. Thank you.
Thank
for
you
the
very
update.
much. I thank you for your time.
We'll move on to unfinished and new business. The first item here is item A, public hearing, consideration of variance application 333 Coyote Avenue South. John, could I have you introduce the application?
Sure.
Then we'll see if the applicant would like to add anything to that. Then we'll open the public hearing for public comment, close public hearing, and have council discussion after that. So if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I am going to be kind of stepping through the memo in your packet, the SEH memo dated August 19th, 2019. I will not be reading word for word, but if you want to follow with me, I will be going through, my presentation will come out of this memo. Upshot is the city is in receipt of an application for variances for the address the mayor read is 333 Coyote Avenue North. It's the application has been submitted by the Finnegans, the current owners of that property. The project proposes to construct 3 additions, if we want to look at them that way. It's been described that way in their application materials, 3 separate additions on the riverward side of the house. One of the additions would be an office and porch addition, which is generally would be located on the location of the existing deck. The second one would be a covered deck on the rest to the west side. I'm sorry, east side of this addition, and the third would be a proposed deck on basically the south end. All of these being on the riverward side of the home. A couple of things to note is that there are also 2 existing accessory structures in the floodplain near the river. One labeled as a garage, one labeled as a screened porch. And the application materials do not indicate that any grading is necessary, therefore none will be allowed, as it hasn't been included as part of the application.
John, can I interrupt you for a second? Well, I'll
Sure.
ask later. Oh, go ahead.
You gonna wait?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm breaking my own schedule that I threw
That's
out
all right.
there.
The property is located in the city's shoreline management area, which we call Zone A, River A. So the shoreline management ordinance, or Chapter 153, applies. Property is also located partially in the St. Croix River floodplain. Therefore, our floodplain ordinance, Chapter 154, also applies. 153 would require a grading permit for any grading, but since the application materials propose no grading permit is required. The existing and proposed structures are all located within the bluff line setback and therefore require a variance from the 50-foot bluff line setback. That's 153.008B1. There's also a variance required for impervious surface. The existing impervious surface is 25.4%, and the proposed would raise it to 26.4%. The maximum allowed in the shoreline management area is 20%. There is some grading on steep slopes. The steep slopes on the east side of the principal structure reach grades as steep as 67%. And then also the northeast corner of the proposed covered deck would also be constructed over a portion of the site with slope of greater than 12%, which is prohibited by 153. So we do need to modify the project slightly. If approvals are given, I'll make a recommendation for a condition to address that issue. Haven't heard, and Mayor, I'll ask you at this time, has the WMO received an application, and have they taken action?
From recollection, because I chaired the WMO, we did not take action at last month's meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if this application could be handled at the administrative level or if it would require board action, but we do have a new administrator, so it's likely coming back to that body in September is my guess.
Okay, so as part of any approvals the council might give tonight, if any, we would want to stipulate a condition that anything that the WMO has to offer would become conditions of your approval. We still need to see information on where the well or water service is located. I didn't see that on the survey. Again, it can be a condition of approval. And then we need a little additional information just to confirm from a licensed septic system designer that the septic system will support the proposed additions. I did make a colored drawing. I don't know if council had any trouble following what was going to be proposed and how it fits over the top of what's out there now, but sometimes...
Let's put that on the screen, John.
Can we do that?
Yes,
We
we've
can.
got this
Okay.
one right here right now.
Sure, I'll go up there with this and then, let's see.
Thanks.
And you can all have copies. There's enough copies here for you to have your own, and then I can point to it on the screen and show you what other colors you need.
Thank you.
There's a few extras for you might need to share. Right? I didn't realize we were going to have such a big crowd here today. I'm going to use this one. So the reason I'm going to use this one is because it will allow me to put back and forth if need be. You'll see that that there are three colors: blue, green, and yellow. So the yellow is showing us the existing structure, including the existing deck and stairway. And then you're going to have to do the colors in your head a little bit. Oh, here's this one. The blue shows us the proposed additions. And if we lay them over, then you'll see blue and yellow, of course, make the green. So now you can see the green is the existing deck and stairway portion that is presumably going to be removed for part of the addition. And then this blue and green area together makes the additions. If you lay the pen here, this side is the first addition I talked about with the home office and what do we call it? Covered porch or patio?
Porch, yeah.
Yep. And then on the other side over here is the covered deck addition being proposed, and then back here is the other proposed deck addition. And so that's the colored drawing. I hope that helps with some clarity to what you're considering here today. So with that, that's the summary of the memo and the application as I see it. And Mayor, if you'd like to have council ask questions at this point, or if you'd like the applicant to supplement what's
I think
been
what we'll
said
do
at
is we'll come back with questions. Maybe if the applicant would like to add anything, and after public comment and everything else, we may or may not still have questions. Welcome. If you'll just state your name for the record, thanks.
Mayor, council members, my name is Mike Finnegan, and just have a few brief things I'd like to say that have mostly are things that are new from the application when we submitted it. Just the two other things I wanted to note for you. My wife Erica is out of town. She's in Oregon. Otherwise, she'd be here as well. And Jeff Welly, who some of you have met, our project manager, is on a hunting trip, and so he's not here as well. but Jeff Warren from Divine is here if there are any questions of a technical nature that I can't handle. So I want to thank you for hearing this first, and two things on the one that's here. Two things I'd like to note right off the start that we can take off of this is the covered piece. We can remove that, so I'll withdraw that piece of I'd still like to make the application for the deck, but not have it be covered. And then the second one on the proposed bedroom deck, we'll withdraw that as well on that one as well.
Just to be clear,
Yep,
remove the deck or having it covered?
having it covered. So,
Okay. So it was going to be
we proposed a covered deck that had a roof on it. So what I'm proposing now is to not have it be covered, just a normal
Okay.
open air deck.
That would be for both the south and the north?
Yes. Yep. And then the other thing that was in the drawings as well, which is not, I don't know if this requires a variance or not, but on the south side, southwest side, I'm pointing to right there, there's a small corner down there where where we had, in the plans, had drawn to extend the closet, the bedroom closet down there.
Does that meet the setback? Hold on a second. Do you know, does that meet the side yard setback? John, can you tell?
This line has it at 50 on there, but I don't know.
Yeah, 50 wouldn't be your side yard, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's the side yard setback. The property line on the south is my yard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, well, 10 feet.
So the building setback lines are being shown there on the survey, and by the time you, but it does, to answer your question directly, it appears that would meet, as long as it wouldn't be extending the building line any further south.
Okay. So that would not require a variance. It's just a
Okay.
part of your application.
Okay.
It's just barely outside the bluff line setback,
Okay.
it looks like, so.
All right. And then the pieces that I wanted to put overall into give into context what we've been here since 2007 is when we moved in. And since we moved in, one of the things that I felt always at this place is that you have tremendous views, but there's definitely some distance from us and the river. And that's what both of these, the bigger screen porch and the deck, are aiming to accomplish there. On the home office, I think that's covered in the materials fairly well, both the reasons for that. And then I didn't personally know when we met before what the hardship language meant, and then in normal language that seems like something that maybe could never be met. But I did talk to Dave Schneider and got the League of Cities definition, so that's what I went off of. And on the first one, the pieces that I wanted to add were the reasonableness of it. The home office, I said that's covered. On the deck, since the application, from what I can see on the river and from aerial shots of that, the majority of houses appear to me that are on the river to have a deck on them. And both of my neighbor Steve Larson to the south and my neighbor who's in Lakeland to the north, the Aarons, both have decks. So I think it meets that. The deck meets the first factor. The second one, the uniqueness factor, that was one where we were able to get more information, which I didn't know at the time, but one of the things that has always, I've always been curious about and never dug into is why our property is basically cut out. So the whole thing is the valley that all of you saw there compared to both my neighbors and everybody else that have the normal bluff line. And so my mom and my dad's here. He was part of the effort, but they went to the Afton Historical Society and the Afton Museum and the Washington County Historical Society. And this is one of the exhibits that I added, Exhibit 19 at the second page. And what they were able to find out was that there was a sawmill that was located, it's a CN Nelson sawmill, located at 3rd Street North. So the best that I can figure is that everything on our property was cut out and looks like that it was man-made from, compared to both the Larsons and the Aarons on both sides of us. You can see where the original bluff line would be, where their houses are. So I do think that it makes that and the other reasons that we cited makes our property unique. I don't think that there's any others. The only I don't think there are any other properties like that are on the river and Lakeland Shores. The only possible one would maybe be Dan Jarvis and Gordy Jarvis. That property, possibly they have a bay there too, and it's a little bit more level getting to the bluff, but all the other ones are like the Larsons and the Aarons and the other ones like my parents, where it's comes up and it's a steep bluff, not like ours that was cut out. So I think that supports the application. And lastly, the last factor on the essential character, I think that what we added here were exhibits 20 and 21, and those weren't visible before from the water line before, with showing the bay. And so what those two pictures do is show what it looks like with the exposed points, ours, Larson's, and what that looks like at a normal water level. And I was also this weekend looking across the river and this is exhibit 18 on the exhibit of what it looks like in Wisconsin. And it struck me as far as how close, this is exhibit 18, how close some of those properties are, and the coloring on exhibit 18 for those houses. And what we're asking for here is not to paint our house white or put a deck in that would be white or obvious. I don't think that you can see it from the main channel of the river, where it's probably roughly about 500 feet from the main channel, 100 feet behind the Larsons and the Aaron's house. And so I don't think that the deck, screen porch, or any of the additions would change the character of the river, and I think that they're virtually impossible to see given how far back it is and the tree cover that's in place. I'll just note just so you have it on this record, 14 and 15 were viewing our property from the 680 mark in the bay, and then the opposite was from viewing it near the house looking down. Exhibits 16 and 17 show the area of what the proposed additions are now. So that shows the stairs, shows this area on the north, the stairs, and there's a brick patio that's underneath that right now too that would get removed as part of this. And then as I said, 20 and 21 are the pictures that show the point and the bay when the water's low. One of the other points that was addressed as well was the septic system. So we did get that checked, and I don't know if that got to you or not. It was supposed to, but if it didn't, we did do I have copies of that if you'd like. Did you get a copy of that? No. Can I hand these out? I had assumed that was there. I apologize. I don't have that. I thought that they had emailed that, and so I can summarize that for you, and then we can. I do have this if you want the last two. So I'll tell you what those two were, and then the two that you guys are missing. Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
Yep.
So this is just the email. Thank you.
So just so I understand this, was this a third party that came out and inspected it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so the Allstate Septic Services, they came out, inspected it, and gave the first form that I only had 4 of those, and I apologize to the rest of you that I didn't have enough of those. But so that said, that our system is in compliance, and so that it's a 4-bedroom system, which is in compliance. It's a 4-bedroom septic system, and it's in full compliance. And it has drawings in there as well. And then after seeing your list, the city engineer list, the question that I had that was asked in that email, which not knowing anything about septic, I just wanted to make sure that our septic system then was sufficient for the proposals that we're putting on. And that was the email that I handed out, was from the septic company saying that it was. And my understanding now is that it's based off of the number of bedrooms that you have in the place is how they rate it, and we're not adding any bedrooms.
Occupancy is.
So John, does that address your concern, or were you wanting something from the county?
No, this is fine, Mayor, except that if you could just have your septic designer amend, I don't have the letter, I just have the email here, but amend the letter so that it's on their letterhead with their signature, that says basically what's in your email, in the email response to you here.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you could have him certify that with his letterhead and his signature, then that would be good for the city's file.
But to be clear, it's an item that's on your checklist, but the city really doesn't have anything to do with the septic systems. The county regulates those.
Right.
So,
He's not going to be required to put a pressurized system in, is he?
Well, the designer will
So sign off.
certify that.
Okay, good.
It doesn't sound like it from what I'm
No.
reading here. It sounds like what he's saying is the existing system's adequate.
Yeah.
Mr. Finnegan, your water supply comes from the city?
Yes,
so there's no well.
correct.
So it is, yeah, again, and that, one of the comments I had there will be a condition of approval, is to just have the surveyor update the survey showing where that curb stop is located, which is your valve, your service valve. And if you need help locating it, usually the utility would be able to assist with that, or should be able to assist with that.
Or call
Is that in, do you happen to know, is that right in your driveway? A lot of times they are. It's
It's in the yard
It's the middle of the
somewhere.
hedge.
oh, okay.
Mayor, can I ask another question
Yep.
before we go too far? I just want to make sure that we're clear, because I'm not sure I was, but so just to make sure that the council's clear on the changes to the application. So as for the office and porch addition, that remains a part of your application unchanged, right?
Correct.
The first deck, the one that is proposed covered deck addition, is being amended now to be just a proposed deck without a cover,
Correct.
right? Without a roof.
Correct.
The third proposed addition in the southeast corner of the home, is that being removed from your application altogether?
Yes.
Right, so it's,
No.
yes,
Yes.
yes, that's what I understood.
You're not doing a deck at all on that end?
Right. That's what I understood as well, and I didn't think the council was hearing that. So just to make that clear, that third edition in the southeast corner is being removed from the application as was presented by Mr. Finnegan this evening. And then I think you described as a closet addition in the southwest corner isn't shown at all on the drawings that I have, right?
I think
At least
it's-
not the one that's colored yellow and blue there, which is your survey. That came right off your survey. So
Yeah.
Correct. It's
so the
not
survey doesn't reflect that change. But is there a drawing somewhere else in the application materials that does show that
On this,
I believe so.
on the architectural drawings?
has a footing and then right here, main floor.
Okay, so it doesn't stick
A4
out.
and A5.
It
yeah.
doesn't stick out beyond, so it's an
It
extension of
just
those
squares it out.
two walls, the most westerly wall and the most southerly wall. It's kind of squaring that off and filling it in.
Correct.
So those are basically four changes, three changes to what was submitted on the survey anyway.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
The only other thing on the pictures that wasn't in there before was the
Yeah.
exhibit 17 also shows what's not not super clear on the excuse me, on the survey is that the roof line on Exhibit 17, that comes out to approximately another 4 feet that's on there. So that is the closest point, that rough point on Exhibit 17 is the closest point to the river currently on our house, which is about 8 feet from the portion that we're requesting to put the deck on. So it'd be requesting another 4 feet past that point.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have some questions for him.
Well, we'll likely have questions. Let's open the public hearing, hear public comment, close that, and then we can have discussion and Q&A. Does that work? Okay. So with that said, would somebody please make a motion for us to open the public hearing for consideration of variance application 333 Quixote Avenue South?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to comment or ask questions regarding this application? Now would be the time for that, if I could ask you to go to the microphone.
I'm Steve Larson.
Mr. Mayor, I will note there's a sign-in sheet for the public.
Yeah, if you don't mind signing in, but
Sure.
Steve Larson and your address, just for the record.
I'm the neighbor to the south, of the Finnegans. And from my perspective, the house sits back, I want to say 30 feet behind the front of my house. So it is back considerably further than my house or the house to the north. I don't see any problem with what they want to do. I understand there are variances required, but from my perspective, I think it's fine. From a river perspective, I consider myself a steward of the river. This will all be almost invisible from the river. I don't see any kind of issue with that otherwise. So, as supporting my neighbor, I think it's fine. I have no issues.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Would anyone else like to comment? No? Any written comments? Okay, with that said, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call for a vote. All those in favor of closing public hearing? Aye. Let's go into council questions, answers, discussions. Anyone want to lead us off?
Well, I'll jump into this. I've given this a great deal of thought over the last couple of weeks while I've been doing monotonous work. I don't usually plug into any music or anything like that to avoid thinking. And so in thinking about it, and including going on the river several mornings, rowing up in that area, I've come to the conclusion that the rules that protect the river, the wild and scenic river, are there for a purpose. But they're not necessarily there to be strictly adhered to. I think the Supreme Court in the Hubbard case was certainly thinking that perhaps each individual town has the ability to call the shots on what those rules really mean and what the impact of giving a variance would mean to the character of the river and the wild and scenic aspect of it. I won't go into how discouraged I am about what has happened, because the picture showing Wisconsin from the Minnesota side, and believe me, when you go south, the picture on the Minnesota side from Wisconsin is even worse. With that said, you might think I'd be leading up to saying, we can't stretch this variance at all. But I think we have two considerations here. One is what is the impact on the wild and scenic river of these particular requests? And two, are we setting some sort of precedent for future people to come forth and say, look, you did this for property at 333 Coyote, why can't you do it for us? I'll take that aspect of it first. I think that the precedent setting is not a worry in this particular case, because I honestly think that this is such a unique piece of property in many ways, but most importantly, its distance from the actual water. Almost everybody else, including myself, is either sitting on the bluff or hanging over the bluff, and most of those homes were built, many of them before the river was designated wild and scenic, but many of them haven't been, and yet the variances have been given in many cases where I feel they shouldn't. In this particular case, I feel like the variances should be given, and because I don't believe we're setting any precedent. The distance from the water is one thing. The type of materials they're using is another. If you look at the water, you can say that, yes, the St. Croix River comes into their little bay there, but Mr. Finnegan owns on the north side. His neighbor, Mr. Larson, owns on the south side. New riprap was just put in there. They get permission from the Corps of Engineers to dredge it. It's when people come into that little bay there from the main channel, they are basically like people turning around in your driveway. Okay, they're not there to, sit there and enjoy the view or anything else. On a rare occasion, people come into the, it's my understanding from having talked to Mr. Larson, on a rare occasion a fishing boat will come in there. But, realistically, most people treat it as private property, even though it's not. So you have to take this really as the impact on the river from the main channel. And my view of it from the main channel when I'm in a boat, at least in the summertime, is that none of the variances requested will actually be able to be seen without binoculars. And in the wintertime, when I'm cross-country skiing out on our beautiful river, I can guarantee you that there's nobody else out there but myself, and I don't think the view would in any way impact the beauty of what I'm experiencing when I'm skiing out there. So I don't think we have to worry about the precedent. I don't think that the variances that are being asked for here are, most of them are lateral to the river, and the only thing that's really projecting towards the river is the deck. And I honestly believe that everybody that lives on the river ought to have an ability to go outside on a deck and look at what they own and what the government owns and the beauty of it. And so I would strongly ask people to look at Exhibit 12. I think that probably says as much as anything. The line of where the front of his house and projected going eastward would be, and where Mr. Larson's house is to the south, and whoever it is that lives in the house to the north live. I think Mr. Finnegan could have made many arguments about the question of whether this is an artificial bluff line or whether it's a bluff line that is man-made, therefore, and not the original bluff line, which seems to me, when you look at it, when we were out there, you can see kind of where the bluff is just cut off, and something happened to that particular land. Nobody seems to have a record of it, whether it was the logging operation, the sawmill that was down there where the old house used to be, maybe bringing the materials up. I'm not sure. I'm not even going to speculate. But I honestly believe, because of the setback of the Finnegan's dwelling, that this will have negligible impact on the wild and scenic St. Croix River. And it is my intention to, unless I hear otherwise, and somebody convinces me not to vote that he be allowed to go ahead with the variances. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at exhibit number 9. Which one is your house?
The house is on the north, so you can't.
Right here, Randy.
Go up and show you.
That's your, okay, the white thing right here, okay. So then you go straight to the east, and you got a bay down there.
Correct.
That's your property too?
Yes, there's part of the point that you'll see on the north side is Mr. Larson's. So a tiny bit of that point on the north is his, and then the rest of it is ours.
Okay. And that's your dock?
Yes, this may be an old one. This was the only overhead when the council came out, and the current pictures showed it flooded because it's been flooded so much lately. So this was an old picture that I was able to find online just to show you
Oh, okay.
what it looks like when the water is at normal level.
That's all I have.
I have some questions. So when we were out there on June 11th, this isn't the print we seen. There was revisions. This is dated on, the one you gave us is dated 6/28, and the ones we looked at were probably dated 5/26. Do you? Because we had the blueprint I remember looking at, there was nothing going past the point to the rectangular point at the sticking out of the house. Do you have the revisions that we looked at when we were there?
I don't, but definitely at that point there was discussion about whether.
Because I remember,
Yeah. I think
if you
that-
look at right here, we stood there, and there, nothing was going past this point, and we have this area, and I guess, do you have the print that we were there when we went there?
I don't have it with me, but I know from memory.
So that, I mean, that was what we went there to look at, was that existing print, and now they've been revised since we were out there, correct?
No, I don't believe so. So there were two separate things that were being looked at.
I think the deck to the
The deck.
north is maybe
Well,
larger.
what I'm saying is, do you have a set of the drawings that when we were there?
Yeah, yes, I'm sure we do.
I mean, because I'd like to look at to see what
We were-
changes was from then until now.
That may have even been emailed to us, I think, when we,
I looked
before
in-
the site, or no?
I got the date.
No.
I looked at the dates, and I'm
Okay.
looking at a date.
So we were always, Rex, I'm not saying over here.
I
but
don't-
As I recall,
Maybe if I could have you to the microphone, just so we can capture it.
the covered deck was there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In that,
Yes, so
the covered deck was on that plan that when we were at your house. It was the one that was over on the south end that wasn't part of it.
that's my memory of it, was that we've always wanted to have
Right.
and always proposed to have the 12-foot deck
Yeah.
on the north side.
Yeah, I understand that,
And
but
then-
I'm looking at, there was revisions made on this blueprint after we met on 6/26, so I want to know what were the changes that we had, I guess I'm looking at it, was that room is big. I thought there was a deck off the end where the fireplace was, and nothing projecting out past. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm positive that it had the deck
Okay.
there at that time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a memory of what the
Okay.
exact
I get.
condition
Do
was
you,
on
you
that
see
plan,
what I'm
but
saying?
I understand what
Because
you're
these
saying,
blueprints have been changed since we were out there, so
Yeah.
that I want to know what. And maybe it's just that corner bedroom. Was that the change?
I know that got changed. I don't know the time of
The
when that.
builder might, or do you know offhand, or?
Well, anytime.
Jeff, can I ask you
Okay.
to go to? Thank you. Name for the record and.
Jeff Warren from Divine Custom Homes. So anytime we modify the plan, just even interior layout, kitchen layout.
Yeah, I'm in the trade, so I know,
Yeah,
and that's
okay.
why I'm asking. Is I'd like to know, was there something that different that? Because sometimes people try to pull a fast one on us. I'm not saying you guys are, but I just
Sure.
want to make sure.
I
we
know,
know what we're
from
doing.
probably then till now that kitchen area was being reworked.
Okay.
So if there were changes, every one of those modifications would have just
Kick that in.
Okay.
And there were, that I can speak, there definitely
Okay.
were changes interior about where things were going and on the kitchen part of it that was,
Right. And then the other one, what year was this built?
I believe it was built in 2001.
And do we know if that grading took, how long have you been at your house?
33 years.
So they never cut that hole out when they built that house in 2001?
Well, sure they did.
So they
The
cut
house
that,
before-
Sir, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a stickler
I'm
about this.
sorry.
It's the only way we have a record of it. If you just step to the microphone, we're happy to have your comments.
I'm
We
just trying to find some history on the grading of the lot.
There was a house down below, and the foundation is where that little gazebo is down
Right.
there now. That's where the house was. So when they built the house in 2001, they put it as far west on the lot as it could possibly go and still get a septic system up there, up on top. Okay? So they did cut into the bluff
Right.
to put the house there. That's what I know.
And also then that probably gave them better access to go down.
The road that goes down there now
Yeah.
was always there.
Okay.
The driveway on top is concrete, but the asphalt section of the road that runs along the north side of the house and down to the garage was always there,
Okay.
at least as long as the Hall sisters were there.
Randy, you were on the council or mayor at the time. Do you recall this application?
What year was it?
01?
I took office in 2004.
Okay, so you don't remember it. For some
I
reason,
do remember, what was it, Randy Meyer.
Screen porch.
Yeah, we did the screen porch, and that was kind of interesting situation there. But yeah, this predates me.
Okay. Did you grant a variance for the screen porch?
Well, they put it up and the DNR caught and we didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
So,
There was no permit.
right.
Okay.
Molly drove, floated by and flagged it.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
the only
comments?
other one was the septic, and that was answered, so.
Tom?
I heard a mention of impervious surface, but I never heard anything more about it. We're all okay on impervious surface
No,
coverage?
it's currently over slightly.
That's what I-
It's currently at 25.4. With everything proposed, it goes to 26.4, goes up a point.
I'm never
Answered.
really sure, excuse me, I'm never really sure with impervious surfaces, since you're part of that watershed group, Mayor, can you create rain gardens or, holding ponds or that type of stuff to ameliorate the impervious surface runoff, which I assume is what they're concerned with?
I'm going to answer your question with a question. Would MIDS address that, the minimum impact design standards that were just recently adopted that allow you some alternative remedies when you can't comply with?
Yeah, so Mayor and Councilmember Bishop, the answer is yes and no. And the no part of it is the mitigating measures cannot offset for terms of your, with respect to the impervious surface tabulation. So it doesn't change the number at all. And we don't get to say because you've created a rain garden or some other practice that we get to reduce that number. But those measures do help offset the negative impact of having the additional impervious surface. So what I've always told councils in the past is while you can't say, so now we're good, you still have to issue the variance for that if you're of a mind to do that. But it might set easier with the council members voting on that I'm more at peace with issuing this variance because they're doing these things to offset. Now, so far in our application materials, we haven't seen anything to offset. You don't see any rain gardens or any of that other sort of thing. Presumably, that's being presented to the WMO, but we don't have any record of that here.
Okay.
To date, anyway.
Mr. Mayor, is there a piece of paper and all of this stuff that what we are going to be voting on as far as the variances? How many variances?
There's not a draft resolution. technically, we received the memo from Kim. Technically, there's 2 variances, impervious surface and setback. There are 3 items, well, now 2 items, just the deck to the north and the addition to the house.
Mayor, I think
under
there
the
might be a
setback.
third, because your ordinance,
The slope?
153.008 prohibits construction on the steep slope. So that would need to be one, or the application would need to be modified to pull back from that.
Well, I don't think there's any way they can do any of this without impacting a 12% slope, so I think we should address it. Don't you, John?
Yeah, so that 12% slope is just, well, if you see any of the drawings that have the green survey area, I can get up to the drawing up there again and show you what we're talking about. It's not as big an area as you might think. Excuse me. Yeah. So it's, yeah, this is an old one, so I'm not going to refer to that one, but it is really just, on this one, I took this color shaded out so you could see these other colors. We're really just talking about this area here in the corner that has the stairs in it. And a little bit of that deck is the steep slope of 12% or greater.
Basically under where their steps are, right? John?
Where the proposed steps are.
Right.
Yeah, yep. So that would either need to be an additional variance, or if that variance isn't granted by the council, then the applicant would need to modify to pull their construction out of that area.
We're talking about just where the steps are? Just the area of the steps?
Pretty much, yeah. The area of the steps and some little corner right here where this pine tree is located now. A little bit of a triangle here that would be affected.
Okay.
So in essence, we don't have any, I can't look at something to know what it's kind of like, what did that one person say? Well, vote on it and then go read it? Well, I don't have anything to read right now.
We would direct that a resolution be drafted to include whatever points we want included. If you don't mind, I'll comment. I'll just be very candid. I was happy that the entire council, that we were able to post a special meeting and that we were able to have 2 site visits. I think being on site is always better than looking at something like this. B, I was hoping that we could get a general consensus of what people were comfortable with, the council and the DNR and the WMO, and what they weren't. And I felt like when I left those meetings, like we had done that, like we had accomplished that. And candidly, your deck to the south, I felt like I had to lobby a little bit with the DNR to see that that was not a further encroachment. You know, we were using that point on the eastern side of the house to make the argument that, well, we're not increasing the encroachment. Because at the end of the day, that is the hot button. Okay? Right or wrong, that's the one that they get excited about. So with that said, I'm comfortable with your deck to the south, not as a covered deck, but as a regular deck. I'm comfortable with your addition that's not further encroaching. I'm a little uncomfortable with the impervious surface, but I do think there are some things you could do that would benefit you, because you do have a lot of hard surface and a lot of water coming off, and our rain events these days are, pretty significant, so you really have to plan for those. So the great thing about the WMO is the administrator might be able to offer some suggestions that would benefit you in the long run, which benefits us all. The thing I'm really struggling with is the large deck. Your property is very unique. I've been doing this now 10 years and have granted multiple variances was involved in the Hubbard litigation, attended the hearings. That was a win for everybody in the state of Minnesota as far as I'm concerned. It gave the control back to the local unit of government. In fact, it went further. It said they've always had it, the DNR is an advisory agency. The next year and the following year, special interest groups tried to have legislation literally snuck through that would give the DNR that authority. And I'm opposed to that. You have one non-elected official making decisions on all bodies of water along the river. But what that really does is it puts the monkey on our back to make sure that we're doing the best job we can and that we're in a defensible position so that they don't latch on to one or two of these in any community and say, see, this is why they can't be trusted, because they'll start doing this kind of stuff. So I'm a huge property rights advocate. You know, I do development work. I mean, I think you own the property. You should be able to do within reason what you want, and especially if it doesn't negatively impact. I am very uncomfortable with the large deck. I'd be more comfortable if you look at exhibit, I think it's 14. No, it's not 14. It is 14. No, it's not 14. It's 16. This one here. And you can see that you have pavers there and the hot tub. If you look at everything to the south of the hot tub, you have a nice level area there. I'd be much more comfortable if you had some type of a patio there that allowed for some drainage or something of that nature, still gave you the opportunity to, you know, to have your views and to have your outside space, but it wasn't a deck. It wasn't a new structure. There are people that will argue patios are structures, but, you know, again, in working with the WMO, I wouldn't ask you to go to the extreme of using all the all the pervious paving systems. I think you can do some. I'd be willing to bet that your brick there drains pretty effectively right now. You could probably add a little base layer that would make it drain even better, but that's something I could stretch to personally. I just am really struggling with that deck.
Can I comment?
Certainly.
Yeah, so after our meetings, and I have thought about that and considered that the difficult piece with that is that area that's south of the hot tub there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably in that room. It's not a flat walkout. You know, you'd have to
come at it from a side.
Yeah. You'd have to
from the north or the
loop around
south or
somehow
something.
to some side to get there.
Yep.
I would, on the deck piece of it, that is something that I've always wanted on it, and I do think that it meets it if the council is not in favor of it. I think a 12-foot deck, the reason why we're proposing that was so that you could have a table and chairs out there. But as an alternative, if the council is not in favor of that, the other proposal or thought that I had was to limit it to 8 feet, which would be, this is my, with the ruler calculation, but that's the tip of the roof line on exhibit 17. And so from the wall to the.
So it jets out past 4 feet past the outside, these further structure.
You're using
through the structure,
overhang
but using the overhang, the roof.
for the 8 feet.
As the 8 feet.
Okay.
So it wouldn't, technically that would keep you at if we use the roof line, the point wouldn't go any closer to the river on exhibit 17. I'd still rather have the 12, but I wanted to put that out there as well.
Could you add it to the north?
You got the driveway there. I remember I said go over the driveway and have you drive underneath the deck. Kids would like that, remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think at that point, I mean, what we really want to be able to do is have a small area out there where you could eat breakfast, you could see the river. And I think if we get on the other side of the property where you can't see from that side because of the bluff line to the north.
What is the dimension on the deck now? Is it, I can't zoom in and out 12 or 13 by
12 by 44.5, is that what it is? The length?
Yes.
So in essence, you're adding a deck on the entire east side of the house.
No.
Yeah, just
No.
here, if you look
Half.
here, Randy, this is the deck right here, the blue portion.
Does the deck go on this one, or does the deck go on this one?
The deck would be basically not the walkout level, but the second level, okay? And right now, it goes 4 feet beyond the peak of that roof that sticks out.
Okay.
Okay? Mr. Finnegan has indicated that he'd be prepared to, if we turned him down on the 12 feet out, which is approximately what it is,
Mhm.
okay? That if you went out 8 feet to, in other words, drew that line down
Mhm.
like that, that would be 8 feet.
Got it.
Okay.
So that's where so there's nothing gonna go on where this impervious where this is.
Oh, what goes on there, I believe, deals with the addition to the kitchen and the office space
And the home
and
office.
that type of stuff. Okay?
That's
So
already
they're-
in the,
there's-
that's already in the calculation.
Got it. So they're gonna go out this way and out this way.
Yeah.
Got it.
There is an existing porch right here in the, what is turned green because of our engineer's color combinations of blue and yellow, was that it, John?
Right.
And that's existing right now, and they're going out this way.
I just get confused when I keep hearing the term south.
Well, this is south right here, looking towards Mr. Larson's place.
Yeah, this is south going that way.
That's correct.
Got
Yep.
it. But so on the south side of the house, there's nothing being done way over here in the
No,
south.
they've withdrawn this
Got it.
deck area, so it's no longer in consideration. So nothing is happening down here, either in that corner, southwest corner, where the closet was gonna be extended, or the southeast deck.
Got it.
You still want to do the closet, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So your wife's giving you a little room.
Yes, that one's not for me.
So maybe,
Even get a little
maybe,
room about another floor.
maybe what we ought to do is break it down into the 4 different elements. Is there a,
Kind of like your email was?
yes, is there a consensus on the impervious surface issue?
By consensus, you mean, are we in agreement that things can be done to ameliorate the
Yes.
impervious surface problem?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't take away from the fact you're gonna have 26.4 inches, or whatever it is.
Percent.
Percent of.
Right.
But, okay.
Is that the report that we're waiting for from the WMO?
No.
No, that's a different report.
No, any way you slice it, they need a variance for impervious surface. We won't know the final number until we work through the rest of the items. It's gonna change anyways, because this deck to the south is proposed to come off, so that's 138 feet less of impervious surface.
Okay.
So, are we comfortable with the variance for impervious surface?
Yes, I am.
Is that with the deck or without the deck?
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. I am.
Okay? Randy?
Are you okay with it?
I am.
Okay.
I would ask that you work with the WMO and see if just erosion prevention and bluff stabilization, that kind of stuff.
Yes, we will.
And I would say, keep it simple. I would, the rain gardens, I'm actually not a huge proponent of. We've got real sandy soils, so you can do gentle swells or some French drains that work really well.
Isn't there funds available that we pay?
No.
No.
Well, he could apply for
Yeah.
money through the WMO for
Right.
design, towards design.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Generally, they do the design for free, I think, but you can ask. So then our next item would be, we've got 12% slope. So maybe the next item would be that we ought to contemplate is the addition of the home, which is the area in green. And I'm personally comfortable with that.
I am okay with that.
What's green, is the area actually hatched red?
Green and hatched red. Yes, thank
With
you.
the red lines.
Thank you. Tim, thoughts on that?
I'm okay with that.
I am. I'm fine with it.
Okay, so we're on the same page there. That would involve 12% slope. Are we okay with?
I don't think that one
No,
does.
just the deck
No.
does.
Just
No,
the deck
that
does?
one does. Just the big deck does, yep.
Okay.
Misses it by that.
So this would be the variance for the 50, from the 50-foot setback for that one.
Right. Well, what is the setback now?
It's within the setback. There, it's on the bluff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so.
So it's not like we're going from 50 feet to 30 feet. We're already there.
We're already there, yeah.
Okay. Where are people on the deck?
Do we have anything other than the deck to discuss at this point?
Depending on where it goes with the deck,
No,
then the
yeah.
12%.
I guess this was built in 2001, so the council back then, there's a reason they didn't have a big deck hanging out the back like that. And I wish I knew why. You know, if it was because of the setbacks or what. I don't know if Mr. Larson would know.
It was an issue with the setbacks and
Yeah.
the bluff line. I mean, the whole thing was based on a compromise that they take the house out down below. They
Yeah.
took the house out down below. They wanted to build a completely exposed basement.
Okay.
And from my perspective, that would have been fine too,
Yeah.
but they got into an issue over, okay, so how much are we gonna give, what can we
Right.
do? And to make this a viable piece of property, get rid of the house down below on the floodplain. So they went ahead and put the house into the bluff where it is now.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll repeat myself, it's not visible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm having a hard time with.
The straight deck, you wouldn't see it from the river.
And I understand, he bought this property with, expansion or future and, sit out there and do that. But the size, and the jurisdiction and, some of the points Brian said, and, a lot of points Sean said also. So then, I'm in the middle. I don't know if we can figure something out here or not. Or if we can compromise on something. I guess that's what we have to do.
So you're open to additional discussion on maybe some type of modification or compromise?
I think I would be.
John?
Yeah, and I think this, your idea of taking 4 feet off has an attractive for a couple of reasons. One, the one you've already mentioned, it's kind of in the existing, I'm going to use sight line of the house more than anything else. And the second thing is that kind of clips that 12% grade. It might take it totally out of play on that corner.
Do we save a tree then?
Yeah.
Is that tree
I
get
mean,
saved? I guess I didn't look at
You
it.
do have some large pines.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, if you take 4 feet off, because that's kind of what we're talking about, is that little corner right there. I don't know how that plays together, because we're not out there with a tape measure right now, but it does kind of impact that 12% thing too. So I'm open to flexibility on the
So
deck.
that would be in line with that overhang line.
Yeah, right.
I'll comment. Reducing it to 8 feet is still a stretch, but I think I can get there. If you could shorten the length of it on the north side so that the tree stays and you're not in the 12%, I could support it.
I believe we can do that. I may have to ask. The only, well, yeah, we can do it. So I'll say yes. Yeah, we can do it.
I'm just one vote.
Yeah,
I pretty well expressed myself, maybe got a little emotional about it because I feel that strongly about protecting the river. But I honestly think that in this particular situation, what's being asked for is well within common sense, and not to put anybody else's common sense disparage you in any way. But and I to me, whether it be 12 feet or 8 feet, if Mr. Finnegan's prepared to go to the 8 feet, that would be acceptable to me. If he wishes to stay with the 12 feet,
You can support that
I
too.
can support that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
8 feet.
Okay. You're willing to go 8?
I am.
Can you shorten it so that we don't impact 12% slope when we save the tree?
Yes. Yeah, is that, so that would be the,
Where you show the stairs right now?
so yes. Yes, we do.
So you may end up turning the stairs a little bit or reconfiguring that slightly, but. So you're saving a tree, you're not in 12% slope. Does that appear to be the case, John?
Yeah, sure looks like it.
And if the only, I guess the only other thing I'd say was if one of the only options to do that, which I would be in favor of, would be to put the deck back here on that open part that's there.
Yeah.
Would that be?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you
not
could
the
fill
deck,
in
yeah,
that.
fill
I wouldn't
fill
have an
that-
issue filling
in
that
in
void.
if we needed to.
I think you have a tree back there too, but it's going to be enclosed, so I don't know that it's really an issue.
Okay.
It's probably going to trigger challenges for you down the line.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So I guess I'd make that modification then to bring it back to 8, take it away from the 12% grade, and then if
Fill
we
that
needed it,
corner
fill
in.
that corner in back there.
So maybe you can work the steps there out. You probably, well, I don't know.
Maybe that's.
you got a good builder; he'll figure it out.
I mean, I guess that, then I look at the practicality of sitting out there with the table, but they can figure that out.
Yep. You know how big my first deck was? It was about 2 foot by 4 foot. I probably used it more than any deck I've ever used.
You had a 2x6 for a table.
And spend all day blowing it off.
I was going to say anything like mine. All I do is maintain it.
How? This technical question. How are you not disturbing soils? I mean, don't you need footings?
That was my question too on the grading and that. I mean,
Well, how do you define grading? An auger that just puts a sonotube in is.
Are you doing sonotubes there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but even on the structure?
on the foundation.
No, the foundation would have a footing on it.
Yeah. So you're going to disturb some soils. The WMO will address that. You'll need to do some erosion control measures,
correct.
but I just couldn't imagine you were.
It's not. We're not grading around the property because it's a new structure.
Right. Yeah. No, that, yeah.
Excuse me, in John's memo, I'm just looking at, remember, on the backside review comments, it says, the application materials proposes no grading, and now I'm hearing that it is gonna be graded.
Well, again,
It's
they're
not-
not changing the grades. They're just disturbing the soils.
So
when they
it's a
do the
temporary
foundation,
disturbing.
They backfill and put it back.
Oh, okay.
basically.
So Mayor, item 3 is an excerpt from your ordinance that says that there's an exception provided for the minimum area necessary for a structure, sewage disposal system, private road, and parking area undertaken pursuant to a validly issued building
So
permit.
that's what exempts it.
So yeah, in other words, you can excavate for your foundations.
not
You can
changing
build
your
your
grade.
driveway. You can put your septic system in without the grading permit, provided there are validly issued permits for those things.
How do you feel about where we're at?
Good. Yeah, I'm comfortable with what we've discussed.
So if I'm hearing consensus here, impervious surface, you'll need to recalculate that. The deck would be 8 feet by whatever that distance is that
Probably
keeps you
about
out of.
40.
Well, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can. You'll scale it.
You could just call it the 12% line.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Whatever it is to save the tree and stay out of the 12%.
Correct.
Okay.
So the twins don't jump on the tree.
Okay, and then.
Oh, they will.
So 12% is not an issue, and then we have the home edition. And there's consensus, we're okay with that, including
The closet.
filling in, well, the closet's really not an issue for us, because it's outside
yeah.
the setback.
But does it add to the impervious?
Yeah, maybe. And then you're filling in that little 9 by 12 area on the north. You may or may not, that's at your discretion.
Yes.
Okay. So there's 3 items there. Impervious surface variance, addition of a deck not to exceed the current overhang.
For this extension towards the river.
The overhang, roof overhang to the east.
Yeah, I would like a little wordsmithing on that so that we're indicating it's not moving any more forward to the river from the current structure.
Existing roof line to the east, I don't know.
Yes.
So they don't have the footings at the roof line and a cantilever's 4 feet up.
Right.
To give them 12 feet.
Okay. You okay with that, Kim?
Addition of deck not to exceed the existing overhang, roof overhang.
I would say structure. Get structure in there. I'll work with you on that. Okay. Just want to be defensible. And we're okay with the home edition. So I'd make a motion that we approve the variances based on those 3 items and ask staff to prepare a resolution for us to take action on at our next council meeting that would not need to hold up progress on this, would it, Kim?
Mr. Mayor and council members, no, it is typical that the resolution based on your action tonight would just be on the consent agenda. It would not hold anything up. I would request that you add the conditions from John's staff report to the approval though.
All right, I'll add that, and then relative to the deck, that it stays short of the 12% slope and that the trees to the east are maintained. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
The trees to the north.
No.
They are to the north, yeah,
Okay.
the northeast.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the northeast corner of the deck. Okay, any additional discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, before you move on, just for maybe for the record, so at some point, the applicant will need to modify, obviously, the architectural plans based on the discussion today. Once those are done, then provide that information to your surveyor, and they'll need to update their document so that they agree with one another.
We'll get the curb stop on there.
Yeah, and the other items, yeah, including the curb stop that were in the memo. And if any of, if they have any questions, I've talked with them plenty. They're free to call me anytime.
Okay.
We can walk through that, just make that a one-step revision so we don't have to
Go
go
back
back and forth on it. Yeah.
Show the closet. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for working with us. Item B, consideration of WCHS financial grant. Welcome, if you would please.
Oh, you got to learn so many things.
I thought you guys were neighbors or something.
But, no, they came up to our office.
You guys don't want to stay? You guys get to watch football games.
Yeah, this is a long one for us. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Brent Peterson. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington County Historical Society.
What? Okay.
Okay. First of all, I want to, a couple things. Happy birthday. It is 70 years for Lakeland Shores being incorporated back in 1949, so we wanted to put that on the record. One of the things the reason why we're here is because we have an exciting project for the Washington County Historical Society. We are running out of space, all sorts of space, from proper storage for our artifacts, documents, photographs, exhibits. We have been an organization for the entire county since 1934. We collect the history of all Washington County. We are the only ones, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that collect and preserve and store the history of Lakeland Shores. No one else does. Actually, today in this meeting that we sat through, our organization was mentioned twice. Although Richard mentioned that we were the Stillwater Historical Society, that's not true. We're the Washington County Historical Society. And then Mr. Finnegan, who did come to our office to look at the artifacts, to look at the documents that we have in our collection, to find out what lumber mill was on that site, who owned that company, and for how long. So we provide a source for your residents. We provide documents for the school children, for their school classes, and because history is a mandatory thing in 6th grade this year. So we are putting together this building. It's on South Greeley Street in Stillwater. We have purchased the building outright. We bought it back in 2013. We leased it to MnDOT as they went used it as their headquarters for the river crossing. And at the end of 2017, they left, and now we are doing the renovations to make this a top-notch class heritage center. More space for exhibits, more space for documents, photographs, research, and of course, the storage portion is quite important to us. We have gone around we are going to every community in Washington County and asking for their investment into this project. We have started, of course, with the county themselves. We've already talked to the city of Stillwater, Oak Park Heights, and actually tonight was a twofer. We are down here with you at Lakeland Shores while another group is up at May Township. We will talk to all 32 communities in Washington County and ask them for their investment in this project. We hope to be open in 1 year from now. That's if all the funding goes through. We have exhibit plans. Our first exhibits are going to be about fashions of the 1860s and 1960s. We're going to have an exhibit on John Runk, a photographer who took many, many photos up and down the scenic St. Croix Valley. And our main exhibit will be on logging, and the C.N. Nelson Lumber Company will be highlighted in there.
So I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm married.
We're spoiled where our meetings are typically about 45 minutes.
I know. And
I can tell you're passionate about this, and I think that it's wonderful. What are you asking for specifically?
we talked to St. Mary's Point a couple days ago, and we're asking them and you for the same investment into your history of $500 a year for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. And do you calculate that on, how do you calculate that?
We have hired a campaign capital campaign consultant, and she goes through several different. She looks at everybody, population. She also looks at budget for the communities and that type of thing. So with the city of Stillwater, we asked them for $50,000 a year for 5 years, just to give you some sort of a.
Right.
Did they give it to you?
We don't know yet, but however, one of our vice chair of our board of directors is a city council member.
So when you had asked if you could attend, I was pretty frank and said that we have had a policy where we don't make charitable donations with taxpayer dollars. In listening to your presentation, and for what it's worth, I believe firmly in that, because where do you start and where do you stop? And it's really not our money. It is taxpayer money. Youth Service Bureau, we contract for service with them based on services they provide to our citizens. That's how we justify that. You've indicated that you're preserving Lakeland Shores history as well.
Yes.
So I see a chink in my armor there. But I wanted to share the philosophy of giving with taxpayer money. Maybe there's something that we could consider based on the fact that you're preserving our community history as well. I've set the table. Let me see what the other members have to say. Randy, your thoughts?
Familiar with the WCHS. Boy, I tell you what, I could change places with the speaker there and start talking about the Yellow Ribbon Alliance and blah 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 and all these other things. It's a tough call. I think we had our budget meeting earlier tonight, and we're still trying to figure that out. I'd have to take this under advisement.
You want to give it a little thought? Okay, John?
Yeah, when you have a $160,000 budget, believe it or not, $500 actually matters, especially if you start distributing it to more than a few organizations. So I'm not necessarily against the idea of giving, but in this particular situation, but I am somewhat concerned about the amount. And besides that, the people at St. Mary's Point probably can afford it. Yeah, so,
You want to
know,
give it a little thought,
yeah, I'd like to give it a little thought, yeah.
gentlemen?
I guess I'd have to concur. I'd have to give it some thought, you know.
Okay, I'm a history buff, so I've already thought about this when I saw this come out. I don't have, my concern is the amount. That's my concern. I don't have any problem with the preservation of history at all, and I think it's a valuable resource for us as a city, a county, whatever you want to call it. I mean, and so I don't have any problem giving money. I guess that I'm a little hung up on the amount, but generally speaking, when somebody comes in here and asks for $500, that's a big deal in this town. I mean, it is.
And it may be easier for us to spread it over a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I would, if we're so inclined to make some type of a contribution, I'd still like to stay in that guideline of you're providing the service. I mean, what's next? It's the Boy Scouts, it's the Girl Scouts, it's there's no shortage of charities.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
According to the Minnesota state statutes, I believe it's 138.051, in the Minnesota statutes, it says that communities may give to the local historical societies.
Okay.
That is one way that you can say, all these other people might, as you say, flood in, but you can point to the statutes of the state of Minnesota that say in there that communities can give to their local historical societies, which we are.
Okay.
It doesn't say you have to, but it says it can, and we're in the state statutes. So, just to point that out, not to, but just to point that out.
What I'm hearing is we're going to table it this evening.
That's fine.
We'll consider it again next month. I think that I'm hearing some support. It's the dollar amount that we probably can't at that level, but we'll determine that next month.
I certainly appreciate your time. We learned a lot about 333 Coyote Avenue, but which is always good because it's always that important part, because that was a part of a lumber mill.
Maybe you need more storage, though, if you start keeping track of that stuff.
We certainly appreciate your time and your consideration of our request.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Item C, consideration of resolution number 2019-08, 2020 preliminary budget. For public record benefit, we, the council, held a workshop with our treasurer and our clerk prior to this meeting and reviewed the budget in detail, talked about a number of scenarios, and the discussion kind of concluded with Lakeland Shores establishing a annual budget not to exceed $165,000. That does not mean that will be the final budget. What it means is, should this pass this evening, that we will not exceed that amount of money. We did ask for additional information from our treasurer that will come between now and our next council meeting. So with that, I would make a motion that we approve resolution 2019-08 with the blank in the be it resolved paragraph filled in to say $165,000. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion?
No.
Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of fire department condemnation of building. Who wants to talk about that?
It needs to be done, whatever gets it out of there the quickest.
We need
you
to
know.
get it done.
Okay.
I agree.
So I had
Does that
asked.
help with them?
Well, I had asked the property owner, Chad, and he was going to speak with the fire department. He wasn't sure if that would help or not. He is in litigation with his insurance provider. That's the delay.
Yeah.
I indicated that that the council seemed willing to do that if that helped his cause.
Correct,
I maybe saw him a week ago and asked him if he'd connected, and he said he hadn't connected. So he didn't have an answer one way or the other. I agree that we need to get this moving along. I don't want to put any additional hardship on him either.
No.
No, but I can't, I mean, what is the point? I mean, I can't imagine the argument being made by either insurance company or the owner that the existing building needs to stay there. You know, for what purpose? I mean, the pictures pretty much show what it is. I mean,
It's totaled.
If it's totaled, it's just a question of what they're gonna pay.
Most of the
And
time,
why-
you see these buildings knocked down and tore out of there right away, so I don't know why. Or
I think only because I've gone
Yeah.
down there that he's pulling all of his tools, or as
Yeah.
much as, so he's been washing his tools, he's been trying to
can
recover
imagine,
as
yeah.
much as he can recover.
But if we condemn it, that means they're gonna tear it down, right?
Yeah, and then he can't.
Somebody is.
Right.
Gosh, does that mean we have to get out there and do that?
Well, I think if it's not done in a certain period of time, we can take action to clean it up.
So it just seems to me that we ought to take the action, you know, it's gonna take us a while to, you know, even if we give them 30 days to.
Well, did we give him notice of this?
Mayor and council members, I have absolutely no
I
information
think we
on
put this on the agenda for
Yeah,
this.
at the last meeting, it was just talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I think at the very least, we have to provide some notice.
Okay.
So we can give you the background information so that you can do what you need to do. We're tabling it till next month. Okay. Consideration of July 11, 2019 City Council meeting minutes. You put this on here when somebody's absent.
Correct.
Who was absent?
John.
Okay.
As usual.
Yeah, right. So I will move that we approve the July 17, 2019 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll
Second
second.
motion.
That was a tie, so you guys want to wrestle?
Give it to Tim.
All right.
I haven't had
Tim
it today.
seconded it. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay.
I will let you know that I had the honor of reviewing your job, you know, by video, and it was fantastic.
Okay.
You know,
Trying to think what I did.
City engineer, John?
Mayor, I just have an update for the council on the 4th Street Mill and Overlay project, which I imagine most of you have had a chance to look at. It's of course, a vast improvement. Always projects like that always look pretty good right after they've been paved, and so I think overall we've been pleased with what we see. There's been some discussion around the gravel shoulders. I'd like to make a recommendation and then give the council opportunity to give some direction if need be. I did review it again today, went out and drove it slowly and took a look. The pavement edges do need to be supported with gravel shoulder in some areas, particularly down around the school on both sides of the road. And it's a structural issue, so it does need, we do recommend that be done. I think there's also need for maybe some topsoil and seed up around the intersection with Quinlan, a little bit there to clean that up. We did have $2,400 in the bid from the contractor for the gravel shoulders. We didn't anticipate any topsoil and seed, but I don't imagine that'll add much to the contract. Now, I'll also mention that I did make an error in one of my calculations to your benefit. So actually, there's going to be about an $11,000 savings over what you awarded. One of my estimated quantities was too high. The person doing that estimate used 3 inches of asphalt instead of 2 when it was supposed to be 2. So we pay unit price contracts, so those errors, that kind of an error doesn't cost anybody
Goes our way.
anything. We only pay for what we've used or what they used. So it'll be about $11,000 savings on the project. So instead of that $55,000, it'll be closer to $44,000, providing we use all the rest of the quantities. And I don't think we're going to use all of the patching material either. So there's a couple of things. The cost will be less. I think if council would like to one way or another address the items with the shouldering, gravel in some areas and topsoil in others,
John, this is what I would ask you to do. I had a preliminary discussion with one of the administrators with the school district, asking them to participate in the cost since it is all specific to school function and school parking.
Mm-hmm.
The initial response was they didn't think that would be an issue. So do you have contact people there, or I could give you contact people, but I'd like to follow up with the district.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have anybody that I've talked to recently there. Years ago when they were doing their parking lot.
So I'd like to suggest that we split the seeding and the grass and the gravel at a total cost not to exceed $2,500 for us,
Mhm.
and would ask them to match us. And if we can get the whole thing done for $3,000, the city pays $1,500, they pay $1,500, $4,000, we each pay $2,000, but not to exceed $2,500.
Sounds good to me. I just think that because school has started, they're already parking there.
Right.
You know, and it's just a matter of time before they.
And I don't know, they have spots in the parking lot. It just, but then we can't stop people from parking there.
And
We know it's an issue, it's going to be a problem, we have to address it
And so
sooner rather than later.
You know, I just think that, you know, maybe we could just have a voice communication with the people that, the school district, that they don't have to come up with the money tomorrow. So what I want them to do is to get the damn thing done.
The answer I got was, yes, that seems reasonable, I'll go look at it. So it just needs to be followed up on.
Okay.
On that note, as long as we're talking with that notice driving there, we need to contact the school about trimming the brush, those trees going up the hill on the south side. That's the school property that hangs over.
So John, could you mention that as well?
Yeah, would you be able to forward that contact person, or?
I'll give it to you right now, tonight.
Sure, okay.
Are you leaving now?
Oh, no, not
Okay.
necessarily.
All
but-
right.
And then we also have the paint, so are they gonna, somebody gonna paint that crosswalk?
That's done.
That's
they
done.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
done, yeah.
Yep.
I've driven over it many times.
Okay, Kim, report?
Not unless you want to score the game.
Nope.
Twins are up 2-1.
Let's start with you, Tim. Council member reports?
Mine was the tree trimming along 4th Street on the south side, and actually the school district needs to address on both sides of the road with their trees, so with the parking and the snow plows and that. The other one is I noticed they started the work on the picnic shelter by the tennis court. They looked like they moved the earth yesterday and they poured the footings in today, I think. And then the other thing, and I'm sure Brian will probably talk about it, is the on 2nd Street North where they cut through the street to that fiasco, but that's about it.
Yep. Tom?
I can't remember if we discussed the fact that we're delaying purchase of
an engine and a few other things due to tariff costs, basically, is what it is. It's gonna add, they're saying somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 the cost of our fire truck, so we've moved everything back at least a year. And we had a review of the ambulance company come out, the company who builds ambulances, and because we were considering whether to buy or get a re-chassis, or do we need a new ambulance? And the guy from the manufacturer said, you don't need a new ambulance.
But we decided to put in an auto lift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then repairs to the truck and a leveling, because they can't work on any equipment on iPad because it bounces around so much. So it was like 40.
Oh, yeah, no, it's yeah, in the back there.
It's a suspension.
They're changing the suspension while they're putting in this auto load too.
Yeah.
Because it is not a comfortable ride for anybody in the back of that ambulance. It's
So Lakeview Hospital came out and demoed one of those
Yeah,
auto lift. It was
auto
pretty,
loaders and-
pretty slick.
Okay. The one EMS guy said it's added years to his career, so anyway, that's it.
You briefly mentioned that there was an issue when they cut through the street on 2nd and they cut the CenturyLink line. I did ask John to go and visit the site, which he did, and kind of coordinated the effort. We're still waiting for that street repair. John, is that on your radar screen?
Yeah.
And we'd like that fresh cut and filled as opposed to it was just ripped
Right.
up with the front end.
Yeah, and I discussed that with that contractor. I told him he was gonna have to cut it all the way across, so he knows that. My hope was I'd put him in touch with our contractor and hope that they would get, but for whatever reason, one of them didn't wanna do the work with the
Can
other.
we put another call into either the contractor and or the property owner? Because it's starting to rut pretty good now.
Sure.
It's quite a speed bump, and, you know, snow's gonna be flying a lot sooner than any one of us wanna acknowledge.
That was Lind, right, was his name? His last name, the
With the
project?
contractor?
Kim can
No,
give you,
the project
I think,
owner,
I think it is, last name is
Lynn.
Yeah.
yeah,
but I may have the contractor's name too.
okay. That's all I have.
I did talk with them when they were actually digging and were working on the water main under the road there, and I asked him to get it patched up within a week, and he said, well, geez, it's hard to get a contractor. He says, how about 2 weeks? Well, that was a month ago. So, and I've tried to call several times, and all I get is the ability to leave a message that's never returned.
You're calling the contractor?
I was calling the contractor, just the number that was on the side of the truck that I wrote down when I was there. So,
I guess I'm puzzled why they didn't just trench it or shoot it.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they should have.
well.
They
I mean,
indicated to me
the main itself was
that
right in the
Lakeland
center
was
of the road.
supposed to make us aware of it, that the water department had indicated they'd make us aware of it. They didn't, but we have to correct what's gone wrong.
It's only a matter of time before people get angry. And the rejuvenation project went off without a hitch. And so I guess everything's, the roads are fairly good. I haven't gotten around to a couple patches I wanted to put in, but I may yet before winter.
Great. Randy?
Thank you. Yes, I have a really exciting thing to talk about tonight. It's, can you push the button or wherever that's got to be? There it is. Field of Bands for the Yellow Ribbon Alliance of the Lower St. Croix Valley. It's going to be on Saturday, September 14th. It's coming up here in just a few days. And we are really excited, the Yellow Ribbon Alliance. It's a military fundraiser, folks, and you're going to have 4 bands. You got West Side, it's a funk and jazz band. You got Bad Weather, it's rock and roll with the emphasis on female vocalists like Janis Joplin and Pat Benatar and the like. Then we've got Tim Siegler. He is going to be a country rock band. And we also then, our headlining band is SFO, and they're the band that cover band for Kansas, Foreigner, and Journey. And this is going to be at the Washington County Fairgrounds on the Saturday, September 14th. It's going to be a kid-friendly event. We are going to have bouncy houses, face paintings. It's going to be about a half mini county fair up there, and we're hoping for a very large turnout. We'd like you to advance tickets, or folks, you're getting 4 bands, all kinds of entertainment things like for $15 for the entire day. You can come and go as you please. If you come and you want to stay for another band or come back, it's just a $15 entry fee for the entire day. The Stillwater VFW is going to open up the beer garden there, and they're selling beer and wine. It's going to be a really, really fun event, and it's a fundraiser for the military. So obviously you folks are familiar with the Yellow Ribbon Alliance. We're all volunteers. Nobody's making any money on this. We have sponsors, and we have our ticket sales, and all the proceeds are going back to the veteran service members and their families, not only in the Lower St. Croix Valley, for the St. Croix Valley region in our whole area here, because we're doing a advertising. As you can see, we're advertising on WDGY radio. We're in city pages. We are on Facebook. We're really trying to get a lot of people there. So hopefully, you go on our tickets. Our website is www.5cityyellowribbon.com. You can get tickets there. If you don't want to go, you can make a donation, or you can order the tickets and give them to somebody else. I mean, it's our first annual, so there's been a lot of planning and a lot of work that has gone into this, and we're excited about it. We got the sheriff's department coming, we got EMTs. I mean, we've got everything figured out for it. So hopefully you can put it on your calendars and come to that. And anybody have any questions?
No, but I certainly will spread the word. It sounds fantastic to me. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Do what you can. Put it on your Facebook. Do whatever. We're just looking for all kinds of advertising and just word of mouth. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I got.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, that was right.